When a self-appointed HOA enforcer pulls a gun on a black woman in her own driveway, he never expected her to flash a badge and change his life forever. In a quiet suburban neighborhood nestled deep in the heart of Georgia, where manicured lawns and white picket fences define the landscape, tensions simmer beneath the surface. The Homeowners Association, HOA, has long been known for its strict rules. No loud music after 9 p.m., no cars parked on the street overnight, and an unspoken but palpable obsession with maintaining order. It's this obsession that fuels much of the drama about to unfold. The story begins on a warm summer evening, as the sun dips below the horizon, casting golden hues across freshly mowed grass. A middle-aged black woman named Sheriff Danielle Carter pulls into her driveway after a long day at work. She's dressed casually in jeans and a simple blouse, her badge tucked safely inside her bag because tonight she just wants to be home, a place where she can relax without the weight of authority pressing down on her shoulders. Little does she know, her peaceful evening is about to take a dark turn. Meanwhile, Harold Jenkins, the self-appointed enforcer of the HOA, prowls the streets in his golf cart, armed with a clipboard and an overinflated sense of importance. Harold prides himself on keeping the neighborhood pristine and ensuring everyone adheres to the HOA bylaws. To him, order means control, and he's not afraid to flex his perceived power, even if it involves intimidation. Unbeknownst to him, his actions are about to collide head-on with someone who won't back down. As Danielle steps out of her car, she notices something unusual: a neighbor's garden hose snaking across their sidewalk. It's a minor infraction, one that wouldn't even register on most people's radar, but Harold Jenkins sees it differently. He spots Danielle standing near the hose and immediately assumes she's responsible for the violation. Without hesitation, he parks his golf cart, hops out, and marches toward her with a scowl etched onto his face. "Hey, you there," Harold barks, pointing a finger at Danielle. His tone dripped with condescension, laced with an undertone of prejudice that he doesn't bother to hide. "What do you think you're doing? This isn't your property. Get off the sidewalk before I call the cops." Danielle turns to face him, her expression calm but firm. "Excuse me," she says, raising an eyebrow. "I live here, sir. That's my house." She gestures toward the modest yet charming home behind her. "And unless you have some urgent business with me, I'd appreciate it if you left me alone." Harold scoffs, clearly unconvinced. "Oh, sure you do," he mutters under his breath, his gaze lingering suspiciously on her. In his mind, stereotypes override reason. He believes he knows exactly what kind of person Danielle must be based solely on the color of her skin. Ignoring her explanation, he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small handgun, a weapon he carries illegally, convinced it makes him more authoritative. "I said leave," Harold snaps, brandishing the gun and aiming it shakily in Danielle's direction. His voice trembles with misplaced bravado. "You don't belong here, lady. Now get moving, or else." The moment Danielle Carter pulls out her badge, the dynamic of the confrontation shifts entirely. Up until this point, Harold Jenkins had been operating under a set of assumptions rooted in prejudice and ignorance. To him, Danielle was nothing more than a faceless stereotype, someone who didn't belong in his carefully curated vision of suburban perfection. But as she holds up that gleaming metal shield, Harold's world begins to unravel. What follows is not just a revelation for Harold, but also a powerful statement about authority, respect, and the consequences of unchecked bias. Danielle doesn't hesitate when she retrieves her badge from her bag. Her movements are deliberate and calculated, designed to de-escalate the situation, while asserting her position of power. She knows all too well how quickly things can spiral out of control when emotions run high, especially in situations involving firearms. As she extends her arm to display the badge clearly, the fading sunlight catches the edges of the metal, creating a subtle yet unmistakable glow. The words engraved on it: Sheriff Danielle Carter, are impossible to ignore. For Harold, Those three simple words hit like a freight train, shattering the fragile facade of confidence he built around himself. "Does this look like my type to you?" Danielle asks sharply, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Her tone is firm but controlled, a testament to years of experience navigating volatile scenarios. She locks eyes with Harold, refusing to let him look away or deflect responsibility. There's no room for ambiguity here. She wants him to fully comprehend the gravity of what he's done. This isn't just some random trespasser he's threatening. It's an officer of the law, someone sworn to uphold justice and protect the community. And by pointing a gun at her, Harold has crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. For Harold, the realization dawned slowly, like a crack spreading across glass. At first, disbelief clouds his features. His lips part slightly, as if he's trying to form words but can't quite manage it. Then comes the flicker of panic, a widening of the eyes, a tightening of the jaw. As the truth sinks in, he lowers the gun ever so slightly, though his grip remains firm. You're the sheriff," he stammers, his voice trembling now, stripped of its earlier bravado. The question hangs in the air, heavy with implications. It's clear he never imagined such a possibility. In his narrow worldview, sheriffs don't look like Danielle. They certainly don't live in neighborhoods like this one. At least, not according to his skewed perception. Danielle takes a step forward, closing the distance between them. Her presence is commanding, exuding both strength and calmness. She knows exactly how to handle people like Harold, those who rely on intimidation until they're faced with someone who refuses to back down. "That's right," she says, her voice steady and unwavering. "And you just pointed a loaded firearm at an officer of the law. Do you understand what kind of trouble you're in right now?" Each word lands with precision, forcing Harold to confront the reality of his actions. She doesn't raise her voice or resort to theatrics. Instead, she lets the weight of her authority speak for itself. Harold's hands begin to shake uncontrollably, betraying the fear bubbling beneath the surface. He tries to backtrack, sputtering excuses in a desperate attempt to justify his behavior. I didn't know. I swear, I thought you were trespassing. I was just trying to protect the neighborhood." His words tumble out in a chaotic jumble, revealing the flimsy foundation upon which his entire argument rests. Protecting the neighborhood. That phrase sounds hollow now, even to his own ears. How could anyone mistake a homeowner minding her own business for a threat? The answer lies in the biases he carries. The same biases that led him to escalate the situation so recklessly. Danielle listens to his ramblings without interruption, her expression unreadable. When he finally falls silent, she responds with a question that cuts deeper than any accusation could. "Protecting the neighborhood. Is that what you call pulling a gun on someone because of the color of their skin? Because that's what this looks like to me." Her words hang in the air, sharp and unyielding. She doesn't accuse him outright of racism, but she doesn't need to. The implication is clear, and Harold feels it like a punch to the gut. By now, curious neighbors have started to gather, drawn by the commotion. Some linger cautiously on their porches, while others inch closer, eager to see what's happening. Cell phones appear, capturing the scene in grainy video footage that will later spread across social media. Danielle is aware of the growing audience, but she doesn't let it distract her. If anything, it reinforces her resolve. This isn't just about her anymore. It's about sending a message to everyone watching, that no one is above the law, regardless of how much privilege or entitlement they believe they possess. As real law enforcement arrives on the scene, uniformed officers responding to Danielle's earlier call for backup, the tension reaches its peak. Harold drops the gun to the ground, his hands flying up in surrender. He mutters apologies and pleads for leniency, but it's too late. The damage has been done. Officers swarm the area, securing the weapon and placing Harold under arrest. Handcuffs click into place around his wrists, sealing his fate. Throughout it all, Danielle remains composed, standing tall as the events unfold. She exchanges a few brief words with the responding officers, providing a concise account of what happened. Her professionalism is evident, a stark contrast to Harold's erratic behavior. As he's led away, still babbling excuses, Danielle allows herself a small, private moment of satisfaction. She knows this incident will spark conversations far beyond the confines of this quiet suburban street. It will force people to examine their own biases and question the systems that enable individuals like Harold to wield power irresponsibly. But for now, Danielle focuses on the present. She watches as the police car drives off, taking Harold with it. The crowd of neighbors begins to disperse, murmuring amongst themselves. Some offer supportive nods in her direction, while others avoid eye contact altogether. Danielle doesn't dwell on their reactions. Instead, she turns back toward her house, feeling the weight of the evening settle over her shoulders. This wasn't the homecoming she'd envisioned after a long day at work. Yet, as she steps inside and closes the door behind her, she feels a strange sense of vindication. Moments like these remind her why she became a sheriff in the first place. They remind her that sometimes the most impactful victories come not from grand gestures, but from standing firm in the face of injustice. And tonight, Danielle stood firm, not just for herself, but for every person who has ever been judged based on appearances rather than character. As she leans against the doorframe, taking a deep breath, Danielle allows herself a moment of reflection. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new battles to fight. But for now, she lets the quiet of her home envelop her, grateful for the sanctuary it provides. Because even in the midst of chaos, there's always a place where peace can be found, even if only temporarily. The aftermath of Harold Jenkins' reckless actions sends shockwaves through the neighborhood, leaving no one untouched. The consequences of his decision to pull a gun on Sheriff Danielle Carter ripple outward, affecting not only him, but also the community at large. As the dust settles, the full weight of what transpired becomes painfully clear, forcing everyone involved to grapple with the fallout. Harold's arrest marks the beginning of a legal and personal nightmare for him. Once handcuffed and placed in the back seat of the police cruiser, he sits slumped forward, his face pale and streaked with sweat. His earlier bravado has vanished entirely, replaced by raw panic. For the first time, he realizes the enormity of his mistake. Pointing a firearm at anyone is a serious offense, but doing so to an officer of the law amplifies the severity exponentially. The charges against him are daunting: aggravated assault, brandishing a weapon, and unlawful possession of a firearm, among others. What started as a misguided attempt to assert authority over his neighbors has spiraled into a life-altering disaster. As news of the incident spreads, Harold's reputation crumbles overnight. Neighbors who once looked up to him as the self-appointed guardian of their community now view him with disdain, or worse, pity. Conversations around dinner tables and coffee shops buzz with disbelief and outrage. Some express sympathy for Danielle, while others openly condemn Harold's behavior. Social media exacerbates the situation, with videos of the confrontation going viral within hours. Comment sections explode with debates about racism, privilege, and accountability. Harold's name becomes synonymous with recklessness and prejudice, a label he'll struggle to shake even after the headlines fade. For Danielle, the immediate aftermath brings both relief and exhaustion. While she successfully de-escalated the situation without physical harm, the emotional toll lingers. She spends the evening giving statements to investigators, recounting every detail of the encounter with meticulous precision. Her professionalism shines through, but beneath the surface, she feels drained. Being targeted because of her race isn't new to her. It's something she's faced throughout her career. But that doesn't make it any less painful. Still, she knows the importance of documenting everything thoroughly. This case isn't just about justice for herself. It's about setting an example for others who might find themselves in similar situations. The next morning, Danielle wakes to a flurry of notifications on her phone. Messages pour in from friends, colleagues, and even strangers offering support and admiration for how she handled the situation. News outlets have picked up the story, framing it as a stark reminder of systemic biases and the dangers of unchecked power. Reporters clamor for interviews, eager to hear her perspective firsthand. Danielle declines most requests, preferring to let the facts speak for themselves. However, she does agree to one local interview, recognizing the opportunity to address broader issues of racism and representation. Sitting across from the reporter, she speaks candidly about the challenges she faces daily as a Black woman in law enforcement. "It's not just about me," she says firmly. "This is about creating a world where no one has to prove they belong simply because of the color of their skin." Meanwhile, the Homeowners Association, HOA, scrambles to distance itself from Harold's actions. Board members issue a hastily written statement condemning his behavior and reaffirming their commitment to fostering an inclusive community. Yet, skepticism abounds. Many residents question whether the HOA's sudden change of heart is genuine or merely a PR move designed to salvage its image. Calls for reform grow louder, with some neighbors demanding stricter oversight of the organization's practices. Others suggest disbanding the HOA altogether, arguing that it perpetuates unnecessary division and fosters toxic attitudes like Harold's. In the days following the incident, tensions simmer throughout the neighborhood. Tempers flare during emergency HOA meetings, where heated arguments erupt over how best to move forward. Some homeowners defend Harold, claiming he acted out of concern for the community rather than malice. These voices are met with fierce opposition from those who see his actions as emblematic of deeper societal problems. The divide grows wider, exposing fractures that had long been ignored. Even seemingly mundane discussions about landscaping rules and parking regulations take on a bitter edge, reflecting the underlying mistrust that now pervades the area. For Danielle, navigating this changed landscape proves challenging. On one hand, she receives an outpouring of kindness from many neighbors who commend her courage and resilience. Bouquet deliveries arrive at her doorstep, accompanied by heartfelt notes thanking her for standing up to injustice. Children draw pictures of her in uniform, taping them to lampposts as symbols of solidarity. On the other hand, she notices subtle shifts in how some people treat her. A few neighbors avoid making eye contact when passing her on the street, while others whisper behind closed doors. These reactions sting, reminding her that progress often comes at a cost. Despite these challenges, Danielle remains steadfast. She refuses to let fear dictate her actions or force her out of a place she calls home. Instead, she channels her energy into advocacy work, partnering with local organizations to host workshops on racial equity and conflict resolution. Her goal is simple yet profound: to turn this painful experience into an opportunity for growth and healing. She understands that real change requires patience and persistence, qualities she embodies effortlessly. As weeks pass, the initial frenzy begins to subside, though scars remain. Harold's court date looms on the horizon, promising further scrutiny and debate. Legal experts predict a lengthy trial, with potential ramifications extending far beyond the confines of the suburban neighborhood. Meanwhile, the HOA implements sweeping reforms aimed at addressing resident concerns and promoting inclusivity. Whether these changes will stick remains uncertain, but the seeds of transformation have been planted. For Danielle, the journey continues. Each day brings new lessons and opportunities to lead by example. Though the road ahead may be fraught with obstacles, she walks it with unwavering determination. After all, she knows better than anyone that true progress requires confronting uncomfortable truths and refusing to back down until justice prevails. As the days following the confrontation stretch into weeks, Danielle Carter finds herself in a reflective state of mind. The chaos has subsided, but its echoes linger, reverberating through her thoughts as she processes the events that unfolded on that fateful summer evening. Sitting alone on her porch one quiet night, she allows herself to step back from the whirlwind of media attention, legal proceedings, and community upheaval. Here, beneath the stars, she takes stock of what this moment means, not just for her personally, but for the larger narrative it represents. Danielle begins by reflecting on Harold Jenkins himself. She doesn't harbor hatred toward him. Instead, she feels a mix of pity and frustration. Pity because his actions stemmed from a place of ignorance and fear, qualities that ultimately led to his downfall. Frustration because he wasn't alone in his beliefs. There were others like him, people who clung to outdated notions of order and belonging, mistaking prejudice for protection. Yet Danielle understands that individuals like Harold are products of their environment. They exist within systems that reward conformity and punish deviation, perpetuating cycles of bias and exclusion. Her encounter with Harold was not an isolated incident. It was a microcosm of broader societal struggles. And while she can't single-handedly dismantle these systems overnight, she knows her role is vital. By standing firm against injustice, she chips away at the foundations of inequality, paving the way for future generations to build something better. Her thoughts then turn inward, examining how the incident affected her emotionally. Despite her outward composure during the confrontation, Danielle admits to herself that it shook her deeply. Being targeted so brazenly because of her race brought back memories of other moments in her life when she'd faced similar discrimination, moments that had hardened her resolve but never fully erased the sting. This time, however, felt different. It wasn't just about her identity or her right to exist peacefully in her own home. It was about authority and respect. As a sheriff, she carried a badge that symbolized trust, service, and justice. To have someone disregard all of that based solely on preconceived notions cut deeper than she cared to admit. But even in that pain, she found strength. The experience reinforced why she chose this path in the first place: to challenge stereotypes, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves, and to remind everyone that true leadership transcends appearances. The support she received from her community also weighs heavily on her mind. Flowers, letters, and messages of encouragement filled her mailbox in the days after the incident, each one a testament to the solidarity she inspired. Children drew pictures of her in uniform, holding up badges and shields alongside captions like "Hero" and "Thank you." These small acts of kindness reminded Danielle that her actions resonated beyond the immediate drama. They planted seeds of hope in hearts young and old. At the same time, she acknowledges the quieter reactions, the sidelong glances, the whispered conversations that hinted at lingering resistance. These moments served as reminders that change is rarely linear or universally accepted. Progress often comes with pushback, and Danielle accepts this reality with grace. She knows that transformation requires patience, persistence, and an unwavering belief in the possibility of a better tomorrow. Her reflection extends to the Homeowners Association, HOA, and the systemic issues it embodies. While the organization scrambled to distance itself from Harold's behavior, Danielle recognizes that his actions weren't entirely anomalous. The HOA's rigid rules and unspoken hierarchies created an atmosphere where someone like Harold could thrive, a space where power dynamics favored certain groups over others. Though the board pledged reforms and inclusivity initiatives, Danielle remains cautiously optimistic. She wonders whether these changes will truly address the root causes of division or merely serve as band-aids over deeper wounds. Still, she chooses to focus on the positive steps being taken. Workshops on racial equity, open forums for resident input, and revised policies aimed at fostering diversity signal progress, however incremental. Danielle sees value in engaging with the process, using her platform to advocate for meaningful, lasting change. On a personal level, Danielle reflects on what this experience revealed about her own resilience. She has always considered herself strong-willed and determined, traits honed through years of navigating challenges both professional and personal. But facing down a loaded gun pointed at her chest tested her courage in ways she hadn't anticipated. In that moment, she realized that bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite it. Standing her ground against Harold wasn't just about asserting her authority. It was about refusing to let fear dictate her response. That realization fills her with pride, not arrogance, but a quiet confidence in her ability to handle whatever comes next. Finally, Danielle contemplates the ripple effects of the incident. Beyond her neighborhood, the story sparked national conversations about racism, privilege, and accountability. Social media posts dissected every angle of the confrontation, igniting debates that spilled into living rooms, classrooms, and workplaces across the country. For Danielle, this amplification underscores the importance of representation. Seeing a Black woman in a position of authority disrupts harmful stereotypes and inspires others to envision possibilities they might not have considered before. It reminds her that her presence matters, not just as a symbol, but as a catalyst for dialogue and action. Every interaction, no matter how small, contributes to shifting cultural narratives. And though she may never meet everyone impacted by her story, she carries the weight of that responsibility with humility and purpose. As the night deepens and the crickets begin their symphony, Danielle leans back in her chair, letting the cool breeze wash over her. She thinks about the road ahead, knowing full well that challenges remain. There will be more battles to fight, more biases to confront, more minds to change. Yet, she feels a profound sense of peace. This moment, flawed and imperfect as it is, offers clarity. It reminds her why she continues to serve, not for accolades or recognition, but because she believes in the power of justice to transform lives. With a soft smile, Danielle looks up at the stars, drawing strength from their steady glow. Tomorrow will bring new obstacles, new opportunities to lead and inspire. But tonight, under the vast expanse of the Georgia sky, she allows herself to simply breathe. After all, even warriors need moments of rest.